I'm conflicted about this. Hey everyone, welcome to Princess Gay. I'm your host Connie, and today we are here with my blind reaction to episode 3 of Shameless. So, yeah, what am I conflicted about exactly? Reacting to this series, because here's the thing. Based on these first 2 episodes we reacted to, it's good. It's really well made, really well acted. The second episode is a lot better than the first in terms of pacing and everything, but that's because it didn't have to worry about introducing everything to us right off the bat. And I've heard a lot of great things about this series. A lot of people really praise it, and again, there's that clip I see every so often on TikTok as well that is pretty interesting. So there's no doubt that this series is, quality. But at the same time, it's one of those shows that is very intense is the wrong word. I would say heavy. It's the type of show that deals with a lot of heavy shit. It deals with a lot of trauma, a lot of pain, misery, just socioeconomic issues and whatnot. And I'm sure as it goes along, it's going to touch on even more and more and more of that. It's going to tackle these subjects in darker ways and more emotional, heavy ways, and I believe I compared this, I think it was in episode 2. I believe I compared this to Doom Patrol. For those who remember, when I was reacting to Doom Patrol, I had to take multiple breaks from it at points because it was bringing me down emotionally. If anyone watching this doesn't know, I am autistic. And on top of that, I tend to be very emotionally driven, I guess you could say, to the point where things like TV shows, video games, etc. can really affect my mood. So if a show gets me down because the material is really sad, really, like, dramatically, intensely, like, heavy like this, then it does tend to affect me. And my mental health has never been very strong. I've always had trouble dealing with a lot of this stuff, and my mental health can very much take a nosedive really quickly. And that's why I had to take so many breaks with Doom Patrol, because there were points where it was affecting me in really negative ways. This series hasn't really gotten to that point yet, where it's, like, really making me mentally and emotionally upset, for lack of a better word. But it's at a point here in these first couple episodes where it's like, I can not only see that happening, but I believe it's exceptionally inevitable. And what I mean by exceptionally inevitable is that it's not just guaranteed to happen. It's guaranteed to happen in a way that's going to affect me really negatively. With what the tone and style of the show tends to be going for, I'm concerned. Because it deals with a lot of heavy subjects that very much would tend to upset me. And I want to make it clear, like I said, this show is extremely well written and well acted. And there's a lot of stuff about what they're saying with this subject material that I really like. But I can't deny that there's a sort of foreboding sense to this, to where I'm just really concerned over the kind of vibes this series is going to give me, I guess you could say. And I mentioned last time that we're gonna give it episode 3 here. We're going to give it another chance here. And see what kind of vibes I get after this episode. How I'm kind of feeling after I watch this. And that will determine what I choose to do. That'll determine if I choose to continue or not. And I'm just going to say right off the bat, if I continue, there's no guarantee that I would continue even for good or for very long. There's no guarantee that I wouldn't drop it in like a few more episodes. And even if I did continue watching, it's probably pretty clear that I would take multiple breaks as this series continued. And probably notable breaks too. Because here's the deal. Like, it's a different feeling when this kind of like really upsetting material is shown in live action than when it's shown in animation. When I watch an anime or a cartoon that has material in it that is, you know, upsetting, I still get affected by it. But it's animation. There's sort of that wall in between that keeps me from, like, truly, like, connecting to it on that kind of level. While with live action, it's like, even though they're actors and what's happening to them is all, you know, fake, because it's real people, something in my brain connects that, you know, in a different way than when it's, you know, animated drawings. Something in my brain makes me, it's like it tells me this is happening, and it's like this could happen to you. Especially when it is a very realistic series like this. Like when it's something that's, you know, a little more fantastical, it's not usually as bad. But when it's a extremely realistic, like very intensely powerful and heavy series like this, it's like my brain is telling me this could happen to you, and that's what brings me down, I think, the most. Because obviously there's the factor of like, oh, I just don't like seeing people suffer. But there's also the fact in, like, when it's live action people, I'm just, it's like I'm thinking about what that would be like to suffer through. And it brings the entire mood down. So I'm going to say here that I'm going to give it this one last chance, but I'm telling you right off the bat, I'm not going to hide it. I'm not going to lie to you. I'm telling you right now, this is more than likely being dropped at the end of this. I'm probably going to say in the afterthoughts that I'm dropping this. Now, again, not because of the quality at all. The quality is there. But because it's one of those shows that I can tell is just not going to leave me in a good mental state. And while there's a lot of factors for how I choose to continue reacting to something on this channel, something affecting my mental health in a very serious way is a show I will not really desire to continue on, because I take my mental health seriously, as should anyone. all of us should take our mental health very seriously. And I've been through a lot of issues with my mental health through the years. And it's something I really don't want to fall back into. I don't want to, like, get to that point again where my mental health just is at an all-time low. Because I know the kind of thoughts and feelings and things I attempt when I go through that. So, yeah. I just wanted to say this all off the bat again to just kind of reiterate my stance on this and make it clear that it has nothing to do with the show itself. That, well, I mean, it does, but it's not about the quality of the show, and I'm not saying the show is bad. I'm not saying that this is going to be something I'm dropping because I'm not liking it. That's not the case. But hey, this could surprise me. Maybe this episode will turn things around for me. Who knows? That's why we're giving it this one last shot. But we'll see how it goes. So when the screen fades to black, pause this redirect and go to the description below. Follow the link to the reaction, and after you watch it, come back here to the redirect and resume play. Because after it fades to black and then fades back in, everything from that point forward will be my afterthoughts and will contain spoilers to the episode. So, that being said, thank you so much for tuning in, and I will see you at the reaction. And we are back, and we'll begin with spoilers in 3, 2, 1, now. So I again want to emphasize that this show is really good. Like, it's really well made. I cannot deny that. I will not deny that. The acting is fantastic. The stories, the conflicts, the characters, just everything that goes on is good. And honestly, this is probably the best episode yet. I mean, it's 3 episodes in, but still. But the thing is, the conflict of, like, even though this episode actually wasn't that bad, comparatively, I can tell that it's still, like, it's still setting things up, of course. It's episode 3. And it's very obvious to me that this is the type of series that is going to get really heavy. Because, like, there's still some pretty emotional stuff in this episode. Like, the stuff with Deb. Like, this is a young girl. Like, she's... What did it say? Like, in the other episode or so? Did it say... Or, no, maybe I looked it up. I think I looked up the ages. But I think she's, like, 8, I want to say. And she's never known the real Aunt Ginger, who apparently owns the house they're living in. Or did, before her death due to cocaine. That was a thing. And they get this old woman, and Deb knows that this isn't really Aunt Ginger. She absolutely knows that. And she was in on, like, setting all this up, getting all those photos made, having all of the shenanigans and everything go on. It was all a setup, and she knows that. Yet at the same time, it was made pretty clear that she was growing attached to her. Again, an 8-year-old girl who has lived in squalor, who has lived in a terrible situation her entire life, who is just really not doing the best because her family is terrible, the neighborhood they're in is terrible, everything sucks. And of course, her siblings are trying to make it the best they can for her. They're trying to, you know, help her out and be there for her, but it's... An 8-year-old kid is going to notice that shit's wrong here. People like to act like kids are, like, you know, dumb. Like they wouldn't notice shit like that. But kids notice shit like that. Kids are actually a lot smarter than a lot of people give them credit for, and are very observant. if things are in a very bad place, the kids are going to know that things are in a very bad place. So Deb absolutely understands that their living situation, that their family situation, that their father, all of that is so fucked up. So when she gets this glimmer of normalcy, this glimmer of happiness from this woman, this fake Aunt Ginger, and even though she's very clearly not all there in the head, even though she's very clearly, like, you know, mixing up her stories and just kind of out of it, this gives Deb a very strong look at a healthy familial relationship, at something nice, at something happy in her life for the first time in her life. That's really fucking sad. That's really sad. So seeing her break down at the end, it like almost brought me to tears. Because it's like, I understand like the shit she's thinking there. She wanted Aunt Ginger to stay with them because she wanted that sense of normalcy. She wanted that happiness. It was something she'd never had, and in a way she became addicted to it. In a healthier way than a lot of the addictions in this show, let's be honest. She became addicted to it and became like attached to this woman who she didn't even really know at all. But this 8-year-old girl just found someone who, even if it was in a dishonest way and for dishonest reasons, she found someone who showed her what true care and love is. And to see that taken away from her, to see her break down at Aunt Ginger having to go back, is heartbreaking. It's really heartbreaking. It's probably not going to do any favors for Deb. Like, let's be honest, that's probably not going to... Her mental health is not going to be well after that. Let's put it that way. She's not going to be in a good place from that, and it's going to affect her as she grows up. And then you have the storyline in this episode with Ian and Mandy. Ian stuck up for Mandy in class because the teacher was a perverted psychopath, which, by the way, fuck that guy. Like, oh my god. Just, like, flaunting his hard-on in front of a teenage girl. It's like, listen, I'm already really fucking, like, upset and angry at Cash for fucking a 15-year-old kid. I think he's 15. I think it was 15 when I looked it up, yeah. But it's like, then you have a teacher, it's like going after this teenage girl and everything. It's like, oh my god, why is there so much pedophilia in this show? It's like, oh my god. I hate it so much. But anyway, so because he, you know, stuck up for her and tripped the teacher with his bag and all, she wanted to thank him, and she was grateful. And apparently Mandy is one of those teen girls who experiments with her sexuality pretty frequently. And which, by the way, I've kind of talked about this a little bit before. Teens do this. They're going to experiment with their sexuality because their hormones are raging out of control. Obviously, not every teen is like that. Every teen handles things differently. But that's a normal thing for teenagers to go through. A lot of teenagers have sex with each other. As long as they're being safe about it, and as long as they're not, you know, having sex with adults, I think it's a natural part of growing up. as long as they're safe about it, and as long as they're not being, like idiots, then it's okay to experiment with that kind of stuff. I think the entire thing about people speaking out against that is a little like weird, because it's like, did you not go through those feelings too? And I'm not saying like a 10-year-old or anything. No, God, no. I'm talking like 15, 16, 17. It's like, that's perfectly natural. It's not really even weird at all. Again, as long as they're being safe about it. That I emphasize that for a reason. And it's like, just like, I don't know. I really don't want to say like the terms, because it's still weird for me, because I am an adult and talking about this is really fucking weird still. But it's like head, for lack of a better term right now, because it's still like, again, weird to talk about this or stuff like that. It's like, okay, whatever. Again, as long as an adult is not involved in that way, and as long as they're being safe, whatever. A lot of kids experiment in different ways, some with that kind of stuff, some with pornography and masturbation and all. And again, there's nothing inherently wrong with that as long as they're safe, but it seems like Mandy is one of those who's doing it because she wants to be cool. Because, like, I don't know, whether the neighborhood, society, the people around her make her think that it's like, it's her way of feeling grown up, her way of feeling cool, her way of feeling like she's someone important. Oh, all these boys are paying attention to me. It must mean something. So when Ian rejects her, that's why she acted out so bad. That's why she screamed and cried and, lied to her brothers about what happened. Because she was not used to being rejected, and it scared her. As she basically said, she felt ugly. She felt like Ian thought she was unattractive, and that was something she not only wasn't used to, but was afraid to feel like. Which, again, is a very natural fear that a lot of teenagers go through. Like, no teenager wants to feel ugly. No one, in general, wants to feel ugly. So I can kind of understand where her fears were coming from. But obviously what happened was wrong. And how her brothers went about trying to get revenge for her, which, while they clearly loved her enough to do that, is still really fucked up. That's like a lot. Though, to be fair, she did apparently tell them that Ian raped her, or at least assaulted her to some degree, which, their reaction at that point, believing that he did that, is not that, like, out of pocket or anything. Honestly, that's a little more fair. But it's just because we as viewers knew the truth that makes it feel like so much more unfair than it is, I guess. But when he finally came clean to her, she understood. And I think that's kind of a big part of this here. When he's come clean to people, whether it be Lip or now Mandy, they've understood and they've been on his side. And in order to help him keep his secret, Mandy's even agreeing to be a fake girlfriend for him, while just in reality just being friends and hanging out, in order to just, keep him from being discovered, because he's not ready to be publicly out yet. And that's awesome. That's genuinely really cool of her, that she's willing to help him out like that. And like she said, it also kind of helps her out by keeping creeps away from her. So that there was actually a really happy ending with that story in this episode. We also had the part with Joan Cusack's character. I keep forgetting her name. I just remember her as Joan Cusack. But her going or trying to go outside, trying to leave the house and everything, but her agoraphobia not letting her. And that was another one that was really sad because it's like this is a real thing. This is a real phobia that people have. Again, I've seen it in Monk as well, but it's a real thing in real life and something that a lot of people go through. And you kind of see the reasons why she fears the outside world. You saw when she stepped out of the house and everything, you heard like the honking, the people arguing and yelling, and then you heard screaming. And it's like that's what that feels like to an agoraphobic person. It feels like everything around them is hell. It's like everything, all the noises, all the people, it's just constant, like, insane, unavoidable noise and panic. It triggers, like, genuine horror and just anxiety in the person. And it's a really great depiction of that, I feel. I genuinely like how they showed that. And that can be shown that way for a lot of different phobias. It's not necessarily just agoraphobia, but a lot of different things. Like, a true phobia manifests in that kind of way. It's more than just a simple fear. It's, like, intense like that. And of course, Joan Cusack is doing a great job with the performance because she's amazing. But even just beyond that, it's like, it's powerful and it sticks with you. And going back to the Aunt Ginger thing real quick here. Outside of just the entire stuff with Deb, we just continue to see how much of a piece of shit Frank is. But even, like, at the end, once the Social Security people are, like, you know, placated enough to leave, you see that Fiona's also willing to go there. That she's also willing to make these same mistakes. That she's willing to take this Social Security check that they do not have a right to and use it for their own sake. And in the meantime, in the first place, she was willing to go along with this entire ruse and fake the entire Aunt Ginger thing instead of turning her dad in. Because Fiona and I think all of the Gallagher kids have this kind of weird need for their father. And I mean, I get it. Like, you know, kids latch on to their parents and they want their presence in their life. They don't want to, like, have them leave. But it's like, it's for the better in every single way. And it's like, while I don't condone, like, for example, what Steve did by shipping him off to Canada, I do genuinely think that they need to kind of wake up. These kids kind of latching on to Frank like this isn't healthy. And I know that's the point. I understand that. But it's, like, kind of upsetting to watch them, like, not just kind of stick up for him, but, like, you know, commit this fraud and everything with him. Just because they would rather do that than, you know, have him be arrested and taken out of their lives. That's... I really don't like that. Because it's like these kids definitely deserve better. And it's like, yeah, there's certain parts about how taking them out of their lives would definitely make a lot of things bad. It would definitely cause a lot of problems. But they absolutely would be able to get through it, I feel. And honestly, it's not like he's really doing anything for them in the first place. It's not like he's really providing anything like legitimate for them anyway. So, like, seriously, him being taken out of their lives wouldn't really affect anything other than, you know, emotional, mental stability, I guess. But again, they need to learn to understand that he's causing all these problems and they are better off without him. Like, latching onto him like this is not helping anyone. It's just making things worse in the long run. And then you have the entire thing between Fiona and Steve, which seems to, like, it seems like she's going back to him at the end here, which I can't say whether is right or wrong. It's just a decision she's made. But her entire flirtation with the cop and then, you know, not following through on that and everything is... I feel bad for the dude. But at the same time, it's like, he also didn't tell her about the virgin thing, which to me isn't a big deal at all. But to a lot of people would be. And so I can't necessarily blame her for deciding to go back to Steve in that regard. Especially since it's obvious she, you know, she boinked Tony just to get back at Steve. It's very obvious. But yeah. It's definitely one of those cases where I think Fiona isn't sure what to do in this kind of scenario. And she's definitely making some questionable decisions herself, just in a lot of regards. And a lot of that definitely just comes down to how she was raised and, you know, Frank being terrible for her as a parent and, you know, all of that shit. Yeah, this episode was really good. But like I said, there's definitely the setups for the future, and it's very clear that there's going to be a lot of heavy shit that I'm just not going to be able to handle. Especially reacting to. I've said it before, reacting to something and watching on my own time yield very different reactions from me. Because when I'm watching something on my own time, I'm not really reacting to it. I just kind of sit here most of the time with a blank face. Maybe occasionally I let out a laugh or just I don't know, a physical emotion, but not much of anything. When I'm actually reacting, I'm basically putting on a performance for you guys. I'm reacting in ways I naturally don't. And I'm you know, basically hamming it up a little bit. And don't get me wrong, I'm not, like, faking my emotions or anything. Like, every way I react is natural to me. It's just I'm performing it a little bit. Because I'm in front of the camera, I know that you guys are going to be watching this, so I'm trying to, like, you know, commentate and react. Also because I need to make it fair use. So it's a very different kind of reaction than if I'm watching this on my own. And a lot of times that makes some of the heavier stuff hit harder. Because it makes it feel like I'm more into it, you know what I mean? Like I'm more part of the heaviness of the emotion because I'm, you know, putting forth active effort into the viewing of it. I don't know if that makes any sense to anyone else, but it makes sense to me. So the point I'm trying to make here is, like, yeah, like I said in the pre-thoughts, it seemed pretty clear already, but I am going to be dropping this. And again, it's not anything to do with the quality of the show, because the quality of the show is great. it's just, it just comes down to, I'm really worried about where this is going, and it's to that point where I just feel like it's going to cause me a lot of mental health lows that I'm not in the position and mindset to be able to handle anytime soon. So I apologize to anyone who is like really excited for this one. I might continue watching on my own time, depending on myself, because I have trouble with that sometimes. But I'll try at least. But for the time being, I think we're just going to go back to Lucifer for now. Because it's been long enough to where I feel like I'm ready to get back into the second half of the season of Lucifer. I'm definitely feeling like that's a show that, while dealing with some touchy subjects, handles it in a way that I can, absorb easier. So I think I'll be good with Lucifer. And yeah, we're gonna just be continuing that right away next week. No harm, no foul. I'm excited to see where this goes. So, again, apologies for everyone who might have been excited for my reactions to this series, but I think this is just for the best. In the meantime, thank you so much for tuning in. If you have anything you want to leave down in the comments, please do. And for now, I'm Connie, and I'm signing off. See y'all next time.